Hello, in this video I am going to cover the debt of developing countries. So we know what debt is. It is when you or an organization, or in this case a country, owes money to somebody else. So a developing country, a country that's coming up, basically being developed, a lot of time ends up borrowing money from other governments and they usually, what ends up happening is a lot of money gets borrowed, so much that the tax raised, because ultimately that's where the money is going to come from to pay for that debt, tax raised will not be able to pay for the debt or the interest, or maybe both, or the interest. And so let's cover the reasons why a government would borrow that much money, and another reason why a government would lend that much money. Because obviously there's two sides of it. So if we're talking about the borrowing government, the advantages to the borrowing government, well, one of the motivations is to basically catch up on the world stage. If all the other countries, or the vast majority of them, are a lot further ahead economically, technologically, and maybe on the human development index as well, and happiness indexes, then they'll need that money so they can spur growth in their economy. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to, is to catching up. If they also want to start a project and they want to get it off the ground as soon as possible, and perhaps they don't have the money for that, that's possible as well. Maybe in a third world country where it's very hot, there isn't a lot of readily accessible clean water. I'm sure they would want to get clean water, and they want to get that to everyone as fast as possible. And you can say that's kind of catching up with the rest of the world stage. So, okay, that's fine as a motivation for the countries borrowing it, but what about the countries lending the money? So, if we have country A, so I'll do this in orange. So, country A, we have, I'll do this in different color, I'll do this in yellow. We have country B. So if country A is borrowing money from country B and they can't pay back, or can't pay the interest back, why would country B want to do this? The reality is, it puts them into what is called a debt trap. There are countries around the world that are doing this, and ultimately what that means is they have a hold over this country. They can say they want better tariffs for shipping, imports and exports. They can say they maybe want these laws passed. They may not say directly, but they may say indirectly. Some countries would definitely say directly. They may want military bases put there, which they'll obviously pay for themselves usually, but they'll say we'll put that there, and maybe that will wipe 10% of the debt, for example. So it's basically a way of putting countries in a position where they can't actually pay you back, and therefore, because they can't pay you back but they still need to pay you back, you can get other advantages which you probably couldn't directly have bought. But now they're in the situation, they have to essentially bend to your will. China is one of the best examples that I can think of that is essentially doing this. I have nothing against China. I think what China is doing with essentially what they're resurrecting, the Silk Road and the Chinese Belt Initiative, I think is pretty cool. But they're lending money to Asian countries and African countries that they know can't pay it back. And as a result, they are getting their infrastructure in there before anyone else. They're getting the best trade routes and probably military bases as well. So that's the debt of developing countries. It's easy for an outsider to say that this person shouldn't borrow, but they want to ultimately help their people and catch up with the other countries. And then the other side is say, oh, this country shouldn't lend, but this is the country that wants to get more power, and the easy way to do it is by lending and then gain the power later on, usually at some underhand the table deal. So that's it. That's the debt of developing countries. If you have any questions, feel free to post in the Discord group. There are finance channels, and as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.